Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube weather channel. Thank you all for tuning back into this severe weather discussion for May 21st, 2020. Before we get on with today's video, however, I would ask that you please do subscribe if you're not already. It really does help me grow my channel. We are on our way to 500 subscribers, so I'd love it if you guys help me get there. And this applies to every single one of you. Please watch the whole video. You'll be really surprised how well this one feature of doing my YouTube videos, it really does help me grow my channel. So, and also please consider liking and sharing my videos with your friends. So without further ado, let's get started with today's video. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the potential for some potentially dangerous tornadoes that will be moving over the south central and through the parts of the Midwest over the next couple of days. This won't be a huge outbreak by any means, all right, but we do have the potential for some dangerous thunderstorms, some supercells, and even some spin-ups. So let's get right into it here. All right. As for today, okay, this is for the rest of this evening, May 21st, we have about 945,000 people in that slight risk, which is that higher risk of severe weather that we have for today, parts of Kansas and Oklahoma Panhandle, as well as parts of central western Texas. But we have almost 19 million people under a marginal risk of severe weather. That includes most of the south central from southern Nebraska down through Texas, also the Carolina coastline, as well as south central Florida. Some pretty dangerous spin-ups there in Florida as well, some thunderstorms. As of the tornado threat, 2% for the Carolinas and Texas, as well as the Arctic region, about 4.7 million people. However, the little 5% risk, only about 106,000 people. Still a lot, all right, for Kansas and Oklahoma border. But like I said, in the center part of the country, it's not as populated anyway, not to mention the area of that 5% is really, it's actually really small in size to begin with. But the fact that we're not populated here, like, if you took a circle of that same size and put it on the I-95 corridor, it would be millions and millions of people, because even though it's the same size, we're talking about, different population. But thankfully, the population out in the middle of the country is lower, but still, all right, we could still have some, and that's not going to stop the weather from, it's not going to, the population doesn't affect what kind of weather we have. As for the damaging wind threats, pretty much similar to the categorical threat, all right? So if you were in a marginal risk, you probably have a 5% for damaging winds. If you were in that slight risk, you have a 15% for damaging winds. And again, that goes from Kansas and Oklahoma down through Texas, and then we got 5% for Florida and the Carolina coastline. As of hail, about 15% for Kansas and Oklahoma, right in that bullseye there. All right. Wait, did I? I meant to say 15%, but there is also a hatched area, and that means significant and severe. So I forgot to mention, if you're in that hatched area, that means you're at the highest level of hail. All right, this is for Garden City, this is for Dodge City, Kansas, this is for Liberal, Kansas, this is for Woodward, Oklahoma. All right, 188,000 people in that hatched region, that black region. So the highest threat that we're going to have for hail, the highest threat on the scale for today. For tomorrow, the marginal threat does grow from the Carolinas throughout the Tennessee Valley. All right, center part of the country. Again, it's going to move a little bit farther northbound. We still got that slight risk embedded in there from the or just northwest of the Arctic region, actually, from northern Texas up through Kansas and Missouri. As for tornado threats, again, 2% to possibly 5% in eastern Oklahoma kind of region there, through southeast back to the southern parts of the Appalachian Mountains there, and the Smoky Mountains, probably a 2% risk. But in total, about 14 million people are going to be in that threat for tornadoes. And I don't know why I just made me refreshed. Then nothing really changed. The wind, however, again, it's the same thing. If you're in a marginal risk of severe weather, you're in that 5% zone. From the Carolinas back to Tennessee again, and then for parts of the South Central, but also that 15% risk does include Tulsa, Springfield, Wichita Falls, Denton, Texas, Louisville, Texas. All right, and in total, about 40 million people will be in that threat for damaging winds for tomorrow. The hail threat, exactly the same. The only difference is the 15% region shrunk a little bit. So about 39.6 million people will be in the threat for hail, as opposed to wind was a little bit more than 40 million. So hail and wind will pretty much be identical threats for tomorrow. as of for day 3, all right, then now the threat kind of resets. It moves east, kind of dies out. Then the threat kind of resets now. Now we're from back towards the west here. And we're heading into prime time for tornadoes. All right, we're still in the prime time, actually. We've been in it for quite some time. Thankfully, May has been below average for tornado activity. Like April just went whoop, and then May went whoop. All right, so we're kind of, yeah, we've kind of been closer to average thanks to an above average April and a below average May. And by the way, please consider checking out my how to properly prepare for hurricane video right there in the top right corner. Also, please consider checking out my 6th hurricane discussion if you haven't already. But I will be coming out with my 7th one very soon, possibly in the next couple of days, so consider sticking around. And the 8th one will have some major updates, so consider sticking around for the next couple of hurricane discussion videos. Alright, but continuing on here, for the probabilistic threat, this is just severe weather in general, because once you get out towards day 3, we start to lose some of the graphics because we get farther out in time. So, within that 15% risk, again, there's that hatch zone. Southern South Dakota through northern Nebraska, significant severe. Even though it's a larger region, we got 44,000 square miles, as opposed to the other hatched area that we saw earlier in the video wasn't as big. But again, it's only 145,000 people because, again, it's South Dakota, Nebraska, and the only larger populated region in that zone is Pierre, South Dakota. That's the only region that they have in there for significant severe. But still, dangerous threats we're going to have to watch out for. Here is a mesoscale discussion number 657. All right, and this is for, and mesoscale discussions are, this pretty much means it's happening now. When we look at the ML Cape here, and we'll be looking at all these kind of maps too, so this is why you should stick around. We're going to be looking at a lot of models and maps here. Cape in this region is higher, so thunderstorm development will be expected within the next couple hours in that blue region. Western Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle. Severe storms can produce very large hail and strong winds. All right, and a severe thunderstorm or even a tornado watch is likely. But again, just east of that dry line, here's where your storms are going to be developing. They're Kansas and Oklahoma. So something we're going to have to keep our eyes on, and it's something we will be tracking as well. In terms of excessive rainfall for today, moderate, which is near the top of the scale, obviously, with that upper low that's just stalled out here on parts of the east. That will eventually move through the mid-Atlantic and northeast briefly Friday into Saturday. But excessive rainfall from the severe weather, too, for much of the south central. Marginal to even a slight risk of excessive rainfall for today. For tomorrow, that slight region does kind of grow here. Everything moves to the north and east a little bit. Outside of that, we do have a marginal risk. It doesn't really give the regions like the severe weather did, like at the bottom where we can give us the cities. But from Dallas up through Des Moines, Iowa, definitely going to be a region for tomorrow. And then for day 3, again, the threat's going to start resetting more towards the north and west, or the north again. And we also do have a threat for Dallas, Fort Worth, point southwest, possibly San Angelo, the Rio Grande, as a marginal risk of excessive rainfall for day 3. Which I believe that would be Saturday, because today's Thursday. With this whole pandemic, I'm just losing my sense of what day is it. Yeah, so this is for Saturday, because this is day 3, because today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday. Just gotta keep my head in the game here. But the Dakotas again, and Texas as well, that's where your regions are going to be for excessive rainfall on day 3. Looking at the radar and MSLP, and then we're going to be going through all the kinds of maps here very shortly for the GFS, European, and even the NAM model as well. All right, GFS, again, here it is. This is 2 a.m. overnight. This is 2 a.m. Friday morning. There's your line, Nebraska, Kansas, down through Oklahoma, your line of severe weather. And that will eventually move to the east, and eventually possibly a low developing here, or low continuing to strengthen. And with that, we're going to have a rising southwest flow, so it could potentially form more of a line of storms overnight into the morning, but the line will start to weaken as we head to the morning because we're losing that daytime heating that we need to fuel those storms. Dew points. Dew points is a really, it's a really good factor. Like it's good for determining, the rainfall and how much rainfall we could have, the moisture content, the heat for those storms, and it's here. Especially towards the south, we got 60s and 70s for dew points, but even way farther to the north here, even, Nebraska, Iowa, anywhere points south to there, 62-degree dew points plus, anywhere in that teal region. For the surface-based Cape, now, when I've been checking a lot of severe weather events recently, the Cape has been pretty low. Now it is actually pretty high. Now, oftentimes what's kind of been happening lately is the thunderstorms, I'm just giving an example for right now. The thunderstorms could develop here, and then all the Cape energy is all down to the south, and the storms kind of miss out on the heat energy. But this time, the thunderstorms will be forming pretty much in this general vicinity. So some of that cape will actually be, will actually mean something this time. It'll actually make a difference. Be proud of itself. Potentially nearly 3,000 joules per kilogram, which is right near the middle of the graph right there. The graph goes up to 10,000. Have we gotten that high? I don't think so. I mean, possibly in like the tornado outbreaks of Joplin in 2011, it could have, but I'm not quite sure if it's ever gotten that high. But still, 3,000 joules per kilogram is a lot of heat for those thunderstorms to really get going. All right, so here is the bulk shear. Now, well, why does the wind shear matter? We know the wind shear does tear apart hurricanes. All right. However, for severe weather, it's totally the opposite. Wind shear actually helps the tall thunderstorms actually spin around and can possibly produce those tornado touchdowns. And are we going to have that? Well, I'd say yes, but it isn't going to be that much. And this is why I think our tornado threat for today will be a little bit reduced. All right. You can see the little wind shear that we do have is mainly Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, and towards the Panhandle, possibly down towards Texas. When we saw the line of storms developing, I didn't see too much wind shear, possibly some more building in by the morning. But again, as we head towards 8, this is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, the thunderstorms will be weakening anyway. But tomorrow, that could possibly be a different story. All right, we can potentially, as we look at some other models, have some wind shear, more wind shear flaring up. But we're gonna have to see because that is tomorrow at 8 p.m. Are you right? Am I right? Yeah, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Okay, just making sure. Chances for supercell composites are going to be very high. All right, Oklahoma down towards Texas. This can also be based on the Cape because the Cape helps with these supercells. Potentially up to a 15 to 22, potentially out of a 50. So the supercell, the rates of supercells, the potential for supercells will be high. Kansas down to Oklahoma, Texas. I'm not sure if we'll get quite that far south. I guess again, I think the storms will be mainly in this vicinity, moving over here towards Missouri as we head through tomorrow. All right, next map here is because we know that the wind shear helps those the wind shear really helps the severe weather and the fact that they can help the storm speed into tornadoes. But if the winds at certain altitudes don't line up, then the winds are just blowing right across the thunderstorms, so there's no point. So that's what this map is for. That's the purpose of this map. And this is, so don't focus on the black line, all right? Focus on the red and the blue one because the red will be the lines that the winds at the surface, the blue will be the winds at 5,000 feet. That's the ones we really want to focus on. So notice, let's actually go to 2 o'clock tomorrow morning as we've been tracking here. Again, they also show the Cape right below that, so you can kind of see the Cape there as well for you guys. The surface winds. Now, this is why I think our tornado threat could be a little bit enhanced, even though we don't have as much shear. Any storms that do develop, take a look at these surface winds coming out of the southeast, and the winds at 5,000 feet are coming from the south-southwest. So, and like, if for example, if the winds at the surface were coming out of the south, and the winds at 5,000 feet were coming from the south, there's no rotation for those storms. But since we have, all right, those turning of the winds with height, and even the change of wind speed with height, that's another kind of shear as well, different kind of shear. In this region, that's why we could have that potential enhanced threat of a tornado. But keep in mind the wind shear is a little lower, but still, there could potentially be tornadoes. I don't want to rule that out by any means. Is this the same map? Yeah, same kind of map, but this is the European model now. All right, let's see what the European model says, and here's some clusters of storms, again, forming 2 a.m. overnight. This nighttime tornadoes, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Nighttime tornadoes are 2.5 to even up to 3 times as deadly as daytime tornadoes. All right, and remember, we also have a low pressure system here too, so it's really going to help to enhance with that dry line there out ahead of it, some intense moisture. So potentially some high rainfall rates. You're thinking, well, if it's a dry line, why'd you just say dry line and then moisture? Okay, dry line kind of acts like a warm front essentially, and except it really doesn't move. It moves to the east and it advances back towards the west. It pretty much always stays near New Mexico and Texas. Out ahead of the dry line, it's very moist. Behind the dry line, no, it's potentially obviously very dry. So that's why behind a storm, usually it gets a little cooler and it usually gets a lot drier behind a storm. But we can always have another one flare up after that. But the upper level low here and the surface low will help to enhance the storm's energy, so to speak. All right, and moving through tomorrow morning, we can still have, some dangerous thunderstorms, even through 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Kansas City up to Missouri, Jonesboro, Arkansas. Sorry about that. Jonesboro, Arkansas there, as well as parts of Kansas, northern Oklahoma, into western Missouri by tomorrow morning. And in the afternoon, the storms really don't fall apart. Matter of fact, they even regenerate again. All right, southern Kansas, and it's going to be more towards the Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the Missouri borders. If you want to come up with a name for like the 3 states that border Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, I guess you could say the Ark-Mohawk, like Arkansas, Missouri. I don't know, but the Arklatex does flow out of your mouth kind of better. All right, and that's obviously more towards the south. But there's your abbreviation for Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Anyway, the dew points. All right, dew point values aren't quite as high with the European model, so I'm saying that there could be some less precipitation. All right, but still well into the 60s, so definitely very muggy atmosphere. But I think the most of these 70-degree dew points will be refined down towards Texas. I think that's where our highest dew points are going to be. But still, we can still see some 70s, especially in the tomorrow and tomorrow evening. Some 70-degree plus dew points indicated by lavender could sneak farther north. So that's what we're going to have to watch about tomorrow. All right, bulk shear. Is the European model having more shear? Possibly some more spinning of tornadoes? Probably not. Tomorrow they do have more wind shear than the GFS indicated for tomorrow, but as of today, the European model indicates even less wind shear than the GFS model did. So that's interesting. That is very interesting to look at. All right, now since the European model didn't have one of the severe weather maps that the GFS did, I figured I'd replace it with the atmospheric dynamics. How are these storms really going to get together? Well, to answer that question, here you go. All right, these thunderstorm cells could potentially be firing up at like top capacity here because we have all the ingredients. We got the wind shear slightly lower, but we have those turning of the winds with height for some potential tornado activity. These storms, especially in the tomorrow evening, and this is Saturday afternoon, will be very dynamic. And in another round, and take a look at this. This might be for another. This might be. I'll save this for another video. But look at that line there. Nebraska down through Kansas, down through Colorado there, Sunday at 2 a.m. That is a ginormous and very dynamic line of storms. Well, it's the same map again. Yeah, this time it's the NAM model now. All right, so we're on a totally different page here. All right, here comes the storms, kind of like a bow echo motion. So definitely some straight line wind damage. Over 70-mile-an-hour winds is possible. And there you go. Okay, your line of storms moving through Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska. All right, and there's your upper level lows kind of spinning up, and the thunderstorms will be moving from southwest to northeast in a potential line fashion. Again, overnight, they're going to lose some of their strength. This is tomorrow night, but tied with that upper level low, we can still see some more rain showers moving through Nebraska and Iowa. All right, here's the dew points now for the NAM model. All right, again, they're not going quite as high with the wind shear values either. The dew point values. Well into the 60s, however, by tomorrow at 11 a.m., which is still plenty enough. But once we head towards 5 p.m., here's your 70-degree dew points. Again, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri, up to 70-degree dew points, and that really lists farther north. But here you go. Here is your dry line. Now, the dry line never really cuts all the way across the southeast. Usually just it moves east, and it kind of advances back to the west again. But single-digit dew points, possibly some fire threats. Some threats of wildfires there over into the Four Corners and parts of the southwest. Wind shear, NAM model, not quite. However, once those storms get really firing in the tomorrow morning, they really do enhance the wind shear. So I'd say the NAM model does definitely increase the tornado threat. Again, here's your 850 millibar vorticity dynamics, and absolutely just mind-blowing. The fact that we have so much like atmosphere, like purples and light blues. All right, and because of the dark blacks, you can just see the contrast here. The dark grays and the blacks indicating where there's no atmospheric energy. Like, you go just east, and there's tons of atmospheric energy. So this low is very dynamic. It's got like two worlds on each side of it here, or one world on each side of it, two different worlds completely, and a very dynamic storm indicated by the NAM model. Next couple of days, we'll be spinning off towards the north and east. Surface-based CAPE. Their CAPE is definitely a lot higher than all the other models we're saying. Take a look at this. Down towards Texas, almost 5,000 joules per kilogram, which is nearly towards the top of the graph here. Nearly towards the top. If we do get a thunderstorm to fire down here, it could be potentially very deadly. All right, but even Kansas, we still got some decent CAPE values, 2,000 plus joules per kilogram possible. But here's your supercell composites, and this is where the NAM goes higher because the NAM model is indicating a lot more CAPE, a lot more moisture in the atmosphere. And here you go, a 48 out of 50. Now, you could read this as a probability, but this is literally to the top of the graph. It does not get higher than that. Texas, Oklahoma border, so potentially deadly supercells are possible. This is an outbreak, though. This won't be lasting for too long. This will be moving out to the north and east, but that doesn't mean, just because it's not an outbreak, does not mean that we don't have a dangerous threat of severe thunderstorms that could potentially produce tornadoes, hail, damaging winds, etc., heavy rainfall. Hail, if I didn't say that already. Significant tornado parameter, because they increased the wind shear, I mean, it's just absolutely going to be crazy according to the NAM model here. So far, western Kansas is about a 5 out of 10, so 50% chance of some significant tornadoes, but take a look at this. Look at Oklahoma, okay? If we get that front to seep a little bit farther south, that upper level over to seep a little bit farther south, these thunderstorms could form over Oklahoma. We could see some Oklahoma thunderstorms here. The tornado parameter, significant tornado parameter, I might add, 6.5 out of 10, a potential 60 to 65% chance of dangerous tornadoes moving through Texas, Oklahoma, and eventually this will be moving through Missouri. Maybe with not as much of a punch, all right, but we still do have some significant tornado parameters, potentially 1, 2, possibly 3 out of 10. So a 10 to 30% chance, can't rule that out. Finally, here is the wind crossovers, and there you have it. Your east-southeast winds at the surface, your south winds at 5,000 feet, and there's your tornado spin-ups. So please be careful, South Central, eventually moving through the Tennessee Valley over the next couple days up to the Midwest. So that is it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off till next time. Catch you guys next video.